Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome back. If you have, my intention is benevolence for all in alignment with the highest levels of love light. Yes, you are seeing correctly. I'm in the dark. And it's okay. I was planning on doing a blog someday, and this will be the closest version I have of a blog right now, since you won't be able to see me during a blog. But I am compelled to share a message that I wrote down about 4 days ago or so. Actually, I've been writing it over the course of the last several weeks. And being that it is Valentine's Day, I think it is very synchronistic and appropriate for what my guides have called the twin flame, there I am, the twin flame distortion, aka distraction. So I'm just going to go into a little bit of flow because this is going to be a several part video. And I want to start by just saying, out of balance and harmony, that everybody has their own concept of what a twin flame is. My concept of twin flaming is very different than everybody else's. And that everybody's entitled to their own belief about what it is, of course. However, what my guides have been telling me consistently now, and the messages that I have been getting, is everything is different. Therefore, this concept that we have about what a twin flame is no longer applicable in the same playing field that we are in now. So this will be part one. I'll have to post this weekend, probably tomorrow, the writing that I have put together. And in the meantime, I'm just going to flow. Little light language. I hope this sounds okay. My little fuzzy fell off my microphone somewhere in my car. Washtara handara ak ur, di ishtara endarek ur hashtarak ur. And so we come to you with new presentations of old flavors, so to speak, as old landscapes have been played out, no longer play out within the same frequency field in this new void. Letting go of old visions, vision quests that no longer quench the quest that was put into motion, put into play. So I'm being shown wheels of time and wheels of motion. And this wheels of motion essentially has put certain things into movement and adapted. People have adapted certain patterns and belief systems because of introductions that were made into the words that are coming through our reality structures. We implore you to dig deeper, and for in within, lots of plays on in within, for within, this creates implosion. Within this implosive field of dynamic capabilities, more understandings come to light, which then help assist in dissolving that which is a quandary. These quandaries have been placed upon the human psyche and therefore have created a schematic, and representation of certain reality systems, certain structures, if you will, that were created to raise awareness. And perhaps in doing such, raise frequency and vibration. Yet, this prophecy has been fulfilled. The cup floweth over. I'm seeing a reference to the golden chalice and the golden spiral and the golden heart. As the cup floweth over, we must clear some of the residual effects so that more can be filled, felt, accepted, moved through, integrated, soul journeyed. So the message that I'm seeing is this is a play on words, and basically there's become certain belief structures that are limiting the journey of the soul. This particular subject that I'm going into right now is that twin flame architecture. We have a combination that we seek to unbind, that we seek to rebind in a combustible format, not in seeing implosion in fractality, not explosion in, I'm seeing different pieces, so I'm just going to pause. Of course, explosion, fragmentality. So what's happened is, well, I'll just keep in flow and then I'll explain at the end because this is part one. The fractality is wholeness, one in completion, incompleteness of a cycle. Yet there are many who hold on to this redemption coupon. So I'm being invited to play with this a little bit. A coupon. We clip a coupon so that we can save money, right? We clip a coupon so we can get something for less, so that we can save, and it has a reference to value. So if I hand a coupon, something that was valued at something is now received and given for a lesser amount. And for some reason, that this is the analogy that is being shared for this reflection of a structure, a belief system. So I'm going to pause just for a moment. Guys, it's early. I completely lost the analogy. This happens. This is multidimensionality. Sometimes it's difficult, especially when you're driving, to follow, except when I drive is when I get so much of the information that floods in, and that's why I go later and write it all down. When one seeks outside of oneself to crack the code, so to speak, to dial in the key codes that are required for a harmonic convention, like I'm seeing a bunch of waves coming together. They're showing me it's like a lack of a complete download. Like you get downloaded with some of the information, but because of the inability to be fractal, right? Or the inability to really implode versus, so again, I'm being drawn to that idea of schism. You can't complete something if you feel like something is outside of you in order to complete you. And they're showing me that this has been a lot of things. And I talked about this briefly. I haven't posted this other video that I did yesterday yet. I did post one of them. So what happens is, let's say we're searching for something, and I'm using the twin flame as an example because this is very common. Am I going to find my twin flame? I found my twin flame, but they cannot be with me. Or we had a relationship with my twin flame, and now we've broken up, and therefore I can no longer ever find somebody else who is my twin flame. This has been in relationship to contracts, and I'm back in flow. And I'm in flow with all of this, but these contracts carry with them a certain fractality, yet fracturing, so to speak, as well. For in factuality, these contracts have since become extinct. So they're showing me that a lot of people have perhaps conceived, thought of, birthed, or remembered certain contracts. And they're showing me certain contractual obligations. And this was the way of it. This was the wave of it, to create a beautiful spiral that would then insert itself in the memory banks of all who came to rest on the banks, so to speak, of Mother Earth. Yet, as these contracts have long outdated themselves, or more importantly, the conceptualization of these contracts and how and why they have existed is now outnumbered in ranking. Big plan words here. Outnumbered in expression. So this is a challenging one to put into third dimensional perspective, and I've been even going back and forth with the writing, because there's so many layers to this. So essentially what I'm being brought, my awareness is being brought to the fact that the concept of a contract and karmic obligation has run its course. I keep looking at my video because I might be out of room on my phone yet again. So this course also, I'm hearing, has run amok. So it is essentially back to the beginning of what I said, where it's run its course, and it's time to recognize that all of these spiritual concepts I'm hearing are a surefire way to misfire. And the fire has to do with, again, fragmentation. So again, reaching outside of us for completion. Now also thinking that we are tied to another individual, for in essence we are tied to all. And this has created this feeling of obligation that has been held within the memory complex, aka the memory bank, and I think that's a reference also to Ankh, but within the memory bank, that has led to incomplete manifestations or misdirected creations in focus. So what they're showing me is that there's some people that are focusing on perhaps the wrong manifestation. And wrong is not the right word, but what I'm being guided to share is it isn't the right angle. So it doesn't quite fit in the puzzle that is really the complete puzzle. So it still leaves missing pieces. And that is why there are so many that feel incomplete. And they may not even realize that they're doing this, is the thing, because it's so ingrained in our architecture that there is always this aspect of incompleteness, this aspect of this need to fill or fulfill some void in our heart, in our life, in our reality. For all of these past contractual agreements have been lined up in such a way that they will run their course if they are completed properly. The only way, and this is also a play on words, because properly. In addition to that, I'm being invited to talk about the word property, because property can have many meanings. Obviously, we are not someone else's property. Someone does not lay claim on our hearts. It doesn't work that way. That is a misrepresentation of the word love. That is also a misrepresentation of the word property. And there's a lot of plays on this. So if I break it down, property, I see is it appropriate? I see a cross. If you think of a cross, and I always think of the solar cross with the circle in the middle, the heart, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. And I'm going into a bunch of flow here right now. I'm hearing they need to be appropriately compensated. And this is a reference to taking back our sovereignty and taking back our power. This old concept that someone has claimed a stake in our heart, that is referenced back to a vampirism and a courting. They've taken a piece of my heart, or they've claimed stake to my heart. That is a reference to the opposite of what oneness and implosion is. And essentially, I'm hearing that this belief structure and patterning has been reinforced time after time, lifetime after lifetime, by the story makers, the story creators. And while there is, in essence, some truth to the story, the truth has been waylaid, so to speak. And this is also a play on words, like a weight has been placed on our hearts in order to make us believe that we have to literally find that person, that soulmate, that twin flame, and then there's been this whole breakdown of and I went through this too, guys. I just want to back up and get a little 3D for a moment. I had these same thoughts, and through my own awakening experience and my own connection with my highest aspect, have learned what my truth is and what my truth is in my experience. And you know, there was that idea of, you know, if there's a twin flame out there and there's only one twin flame, then what if I'm not with the right person? You guys, I love my husband, and I know he is my twin flame in that regard. From that 3D perspective on what a twin flame is, from the fairy tale storyline that was then inserted somewhat into the new age spiritual movement. And what my guides are telling me is that wasn't wrong. However, it no longer applies to where we're at now as a collective. If we choose to play in the 5D, that twin flame representation is not necessarily at the correct angle anymore. It no longer lines up with where we're headed. At one time, it might have lined up with where we were headed. And it's great if somebody feels like they are with that person, and that's fantastic. But my guy and I do. But the only way that I recognized that was when I felt complete. It's that whole Jerry Maguire, you complete me thing is Hollywood. It's the movies. It doesn't work like that. Although I am being guided, and I will do this in my next video, to talk about, well, what happens if you've met someone and you think they are that fairy tale idea? And I say fairy tale, you guys, this is a play on words, and I'm being invited to play with this even. A fairy tale is a telling. It's weaving a tale. All right, it's weaving a connection. It's weaving together something that is fair, right? Like, who is the fairest of them all? Mirror, mirror on the wall. Let there be light. I stopped for a bit now, and I can actually just finish this. So fairness, my fair lady, it's a balance. It's being with integrity. It's having impeccability. It's being fair and right. It's that right angle. And so while there are many who feel that there is this aspect and that might be their truth, essentially the message that's coming through, because I'm going to end on this note and call this part 1, is that this was a truth. Those contracts have been fulfilled. A lot of our feelings about this has to do a little bit with karmic, the idea of karma and how that existed, and that's kind of played out as well for many, not all necessarily, but from what my guides are sharing with me. And in addition to that, it's this concept of these fairy tales have run their course, and what I'm being shown is a whip. Like, it's that whip effect, and I have to go into physics with that a little bit because I can't quite explain it from a third dimensional perspective. I have to sit down and look up the pictures and share them on maybe a video this weekend. And what I'm being shown is thinking of a tail, a scorpion eating its own tail. It all has to do with implosion. The snake eating its own tail, all of that. The 3 hairs, the strange loop, the slip knot, all of it. And this is what this twin, and I'll get into this in the next video, like, all right, so that's not what a twin flame is. What is it? And in a nutshell, the easiest explanation is it's here. It's inside of us. It isn't outside of us. It is true implosion. It's true coherence. It's fairness. It's the fairy tale. It's a balance of the head, the heart, the tail, everything. And what that does is it creates a twinning with our divine feminine, divine masculine, our yin and yang, our shadow and light, which then creates a fire, okay, flame, in the DNA and the blood. That's what it is. And we've been told this in metaphors and analogies and parables for many, many eons. But those analogies and parables can be interpreted in a myriad of ways. And they've been interpreted in a certain way that was cohesive for the architecture and the dimensional aspects, capabilities, and timelines that we were on for those time periods. But those time periods are null and void, as are the contracts in which we existed within during those particular conjunctions. And I'll have to come back and write this all down. This offers a sense of freedom. And I hear in the algorithms and amalgorithms. So this is all a play on words, but it does. For some, it will seem almost, again, I see a lot of people that will be in resistance about this particular concept, but they want me to bring it back, eat the tail, come back to the beginning of what was being shared with this particular message. And that was that we are coming back into balance, fairness, harmonics, and this concept and ideas that have presented themselves in certain ways are balancing out. And it's time to let go of some of the old contractual obligations that have been fulfilled. Oh, and what I'm being guided to really hone in on is that they're holding us back. So they're keeping us from really getting to that next level sometimes, even in a relationship. Because if we are with someone, it sometimes can create this feeling of needing to control. Not for everybody, you guys. This is a very broad message, but control outcomes, control this, control that. And it's almost like that particular belief system has outgrown itself. And in order to continue with our growth and expansion, we're being invited not to limit anybody with a concept that is not even outdated. That's a play on words. We've expanded out of that. And we're in a different form of this. And when we can let go of a lot of these belief structures, especially in the spiritual community that we've been spoon-fed, is what the words that are coming through. It's almost like it gives us less of a already created blueprint that we have to follow. And that's kind of the message about all of this. It's like, how big can we expand? And these old concepts are not giving us that full expression or allowing us to fulfill. They've been fulfilled. They're full. The cup runneth over. So last but not least is, again, letting go of that concept. Because when we tack that, I'm hearing extrasensory responsibility onto somebody else. When we tell someone else, you are this to me, that can also limit them. Now, it may be a compliment from a third dimensional perspective, and it may be true from a third dimensional perspective, even though many of us as spiritual or light workers say, well, this is multidimensional, and this will be the second video. The concept is can be multidimensional, but it can also be limiting at the same time. So when we label, tack on to somebody else what they are to us in that way, it also limits the entire concept. It can limit them, and it primarily limits ourselves. So once again, we're being guided to maybe change from that perspective and morph into the new perspective. And I'll get into that in another video. So I know this was like kind of, wow. For me, it's been literally, I've been playing with this and going back and forth with my highest aspect and asking for clarification on this, because it's been such a big subject and topic for at least the last 5 years, maybe longer. And it kind of has come into that, it's played itself out. And it really resonated with me. It won't necessarily resonate with everyone, but it depends on being open-minded and open-hearted about this. Because, yeah, I'm going to end on that note. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. In love and light, namaste.